record. Okay. Cool. All right. So today we're not only going to be talking about aggression and what causes aggression, but we're actually going to be talking about anxiety as well, because a lot of times the two go hand in hand. So what we're going to be talking about tonight is the things that we as people inadvertently do with our dogs, to our dogs, situations that we put them in where by accident, inadvertently, we ask for aggression or we ask for anxiety. So everybody that gets, and I know I've got my puppy people on the call, every time somebody gets a puppy, their number one goal is to make sure that their dog doesn't have aggression and that their dog is good with everybody and doesn't want to bite kids and doesn't want to attack dogs and that their dog does not develop anxiety. But oftentimes these aren't things that our puppy people think about. They're not thinking about anxiety. They're not thinking about aggression. Your dog's this big, they're 8 weeks old, 9 weeks old. You're not conditioned to go right to aggression or to go right to anxiety. But oftentimes when people come to Happy Tales and they bring us a dog that's a year old or 2 years old or 3 years old or 4 years old or even older, and their dog has used aggressive tactics or their dog experiences a lot of anxiety, they come to Happy Tales and they ask us to fix it. And like I always tell people, you can't fix anxiety and you cannot fix aggression. So anxiety is a feeling and aggression is a response to stress. And so when you get to, when you're dealing with dogs that have anxiety and aggression, you're dealing with things that we need to manage, not necessarily fix. So it's just like therapy. Whenever we're dealing with like a dog that we want to manipulate the mindset or change the behavior, modify the behavior, we start by going back to their childhood. And when I talk about going back to their childhood, this is why I think it's so important for the puppy people on the group to really take these concepts seriously, because you don't expect to have anxiety and you don't expect to have aggression. But a lot of times the stuff that we're doing is the stuff that's contributing to it. So if you got the email with your notes, there's a 2-page handout that I had asked you guys to print out if you want to follow along. And I think it's beneficial. So the second page of this has little check marks or little boxes where you can go down and like check mark the stuff that you and the family are contributing to. And whether it's just one person or, my husband does this, I don't do this, but I do that, and my husband doesn't do that. So anything that on here, you can rank it, you can check mark it, you can blame somebody on there. And then I do want to say, when we're going over this list today, that if you have a whole bunch of check marks, don't freak out. We're going to talk about it because you're not expected to have none of these things, but we are going to talk about the things that can lead to issues. And like, I always tell people, anytime that I'm going to tell you to do something or to not do something, there's always a reason. And tonight on this call, I'm going to be talking about a lot of heavy topics and a lot of emotional things with people, or, the emotional things that people experience with their dogs, such as, number one, unearned, nonstop petting and cuddling and kissing and touching. Sometimes when I tell people stop touching your dog, it's heartbreaking for owners to think I've got to stop touching my dog nonstop. So I am going to talk a lot about what these things can potentially do to your dog. No guarantees, but what they can potentially do. And then maybe this gives you guys some steps to take after the fact if you are dealing with anxiety with your dog, or if you are dealing with aggression with your dog. So I want to really start by talking about why I developed this particular course. So the first part of the course, talking about stress responses. So obviously last week we talked about when our dogs are presented with something new, a new person, a new object, a new thing, a new dog, a new environment, our dogs are going to respond with grace where they totally are accepting of it and cool, or they're going to respond with some type of response that says, I'm not cool with the situation. And that's where we get fight, flight, and avoidance. So I think that those topics are so important because we oftentimes put our dogs in situations that they can't handle and you guys aren't reading them appropriately. So that's somewhat of what I talked about in part one. Part two is, now that we know how our dogs respond to stress, we've got last week you guys got some steps to take, some things to look at, body language to look at, how to help your dog and advocate for your dog. So today I'm going to start talking about the things that we do in our own homes and inadvertently in the world that might lead to a lot of our dogs' mindset issues. We'll talk about behavior issues as well, but the mindset issues. So I created this course because I truly believe that the majority of aggression that our clients see, including myself, the majority of the aggression that we see could have been prevented. And it could have been prevented if we knew what led to it to begin with. So I'm going to start by talking simply just about mindset and relationship between you and your dog. And what I want you guys to ask, and especially for the puppy owners of the group, who is in control of your relationship? Who's in control on a big picture scale? Who's in control right now in this moment? Where does your dog get control versus where you get control, and vice versa? So dogs are super manipulative, super controlling creatures in nature. And it's not always a bad thing. They're allowed to have some control at times, but that's something that we want them to have be earned. But so when we talk about aggression, aggression typically comes from either genetics or it comes from environment, being like, what are we doing in our life that's contributing to the problem? So we will talk about some of these different, genetics things and breed stuff. But one of the biggest things is who is in control in the relationship. So many people get their dogs. They get dogs that they rescue, they get their young dogs, and they live life with their dogs in a way that they think they're loving their dog by giving them lots of freedom, lots of playtime, lots of treats, lots of snuggling, lots of hugging, lots of kissing, lots of petting, lots of baby talk, a ton of attention, giving into demands. We give all these things to our dogs because we love them. But this isn't necessarily the right way to love your dog, by laying out the red carpet and just giving them everything in the world that feels good. It feels good to us. It feels good to them, but those things can contribute to a lot of our problems. So when we're talking about aggression specifically, there's different variations of aggression, or different types of aggression. So we obviously have, like our fear-based aggression. We talked a little bit about, we tiptoed around it a little bit last week, but I'll talk more about that. So fear-based aggression is when dogs are put into a situation that they can't handle the stress that's applied on them, and they respond with a fear bite. So it could be a growl, it could be a snap, but when it turns into true aggression, growling and snapping, in all honesty, is communication. Growling is a dog's way of saying, I'm so uncomfortable, please give me space. But when we don't give our dogs space, this is where it can lead to aggressive tactics. And now our dogs take it to the aggressive level and they bite, and they learn in that exact moment how powerful that bite is. And they're more likely to repeat that bite because they learned how powerful it was in that exact moment. This is why we can't fix aggressive dogs, because aggressive dogs know it works. They've already learned how powerful that tactic is, and it's by far the most effective tactic they have ever used in history. So the goal, if you're on this call and you have never experienced a bite with your dog, our goal is that you never, ever, ever do. But if you do, or you have, you need to understand what led to that bite and not put them in that situation again. We'll come back to that. So we have our possessive aggression. So people misinterpret this a lot, because possessive aggression can be a dog possessing an owner, a dog possessing space, such as a yard, a house, a front door, a bed, a couch. A dog can possess bones or toys. They could be a stuffed animal or a nylabone or a real animal product. They possess their food. So their possession is not, everybody always thinks possession is a dog, where you say, oh no, I can take my dog's food away. But man, when I'm on a walk and somebody starts approaching me, my dog goes ballistic on that person. My question is, are they going ballistic because they're scared? Are they going ballistic because they think they own you and they're trying to make them get away from you? Are they going ballistic because they're excited? Is it a happy bark? Is it like amped up, overstimulated energy? So a dog exploding at some other person isn't always, or is the dog protecting? Does the dog think you don't have your stuff together, so the dog has to protect you because you're weak? So when dogs protect owners, and I might have mentioned this last week, but I really want you guys to think about it. If you say my dog barks out of control because they're protecting me, what that's saying is they don't trust you. They have no faith in you. They find you to be weak. And I'll be honest, most dogs do not have the confidence to protect to be in a protective mode. So most of the time the dog is not protecting you, but if your dog is protecting you, it's because they know for a fact you're not in control. And this is what we talk about when we talk about who's in control. So bratty controlling aggression, a lot of times this starts out in our young puppies, where they're bite, nibble, 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 nibble. We're pull. We're ouching and screaming and yelling and kicking, and we're running away from our dogs that are mouthing us. And we start to teach them how powerful their mouths are. And then if we're giving, I'm going to talk about all this big list I have. If we're giving and giving and giving and giving, and we're just building our dog's ego, and we're telling them that they're basically like king of the mountain. And as young puppies, they learned that their teeth backed you away and controlled you. This is where I don't really call this true aggression. This is more of just your bratty aggression, where dogs start to apply more pressure and use more pressure because they know they beat you to a pulp when they do it. And this stuff can actually lead to true bites. So you also have dominance-based aggression. You see this a lot with other dogs, where dogs are starting to demand that they are in charge and that they're dominant and that they're above you. And when you're like, no, you're not, and your dog, boom, nails your hand, that can be dominance-based aggression. And then the only one, in my opinion, that is completely excusable to some extent, where I don't put them in the same category as all of the other dogs, is when our dogs are sick or in pain. So your dog runs out the door, gets hit by a car. Oh my gosh, you got to scoop them up and put them in the car so you can deliver them to the hospital because they were just hit by a car, and they bite you because their leg is broken and they're scared and we're all nervous and they're hurt and their head hurts and they have road rash. Like, that's a whole different ball game. So it's worth noting, because I do want you guys to recognize that God forbid something happens where your dog is in pain. You've got to tiptoe around them to some extent and be very gentle and very patient with them, because we don't know if a response will come out that we've never been familiar with before. So it's really important that you just take your time, and that you're very patient with your dog. God forbid they ever get hurt. So when we talk about who's in control, I actually want to start with my puppy owners that are on the call first. So in our puppy development course, we teach owners how to start controlling the nipping, the puppy biting, and controlling the, the dogs that are using their teeth to initiate play. Because what we don't want to do is we don't want to pull away and say, because it starts to teach our dogs that their teeth are controlling us. And the more that our dogs go like this and we go like this, and our dogs go like this and we go like this, and our dogs go like this and we go like this, the more that we do this motion, it starts to, as dogs learn through repetition, it starts to create the repetition. Teeth on skin, hand flies away. Teeth on skin, hand flies away. Teeth on skin, hand flies away. Now I stole your sock and I really want your sock, and you're going to go chase the dog and get it. And now they think, I really want this sock, and now my dad's trying to take it away from me. What do? I know what backs my dad away. Teeth on skin. And this is how we can create problems. So I tell my puppy development people, it's on our puppy development website. People love to brag about how they can take their dog's food away all day long. Stop flipping doing that. It's so obnoxious and it's so rude and it's disrespectful. Should you be able to take your dog's food away? Yes. Should you be able to take your dog's bones away? Yes, but constantly taking it to prove it is not how you prove it. You start to become a threat. So I really want to talk about that when we talk about possessive aggression. The more that you're taking things away from your dog that they want to keep without relinquishing it. So this is where, like in our formal programs, we teach drop, means spit out what's in your mouth and surrender it and let me take it. Because we want to make sure that our dogs respect the command and understand that when I say drop, I'm going to take it away from you. This is not necessarily an obedience thing. This is a big relationship thing. So if I'm able to get my dog to spit something out and reach down and take it, that means my dog respects me enough to go and take that. So people have come to Happy Tails and learned the drop command, and owners have gone to take something and their dog launches across and slams them and bites them when they go to take it. It's not because the dog didn't drop it. It's because the dog doesn't respect the owner enough. That's a mindset. That's a relationship issue, not a training issue. So when I talk about these things here on this list today, so much of this stuff is what's going to contribute to your dog's mindset and contribute to the relationship you are forming with your dog. So I'm going to talk a lot about that stuff today. So I want to start going through this list and start talking about the whys behind some of this stuff, because I'm sure if any of you guys printed the list off and you started to look through it, I'm sure that there were some things that you're like, oh my gosh, I do almost all of this. Or you might say, oh my gosh, I do 50% of this, or I do a lot of this stuff, but not all the time. Like, this is where we're going to start to look at the balance. And then I'm going to talk about things. There's only a few things on here that I call non-negotiable that anybody at Happy Tails, including myself, will never say, you know what, for you, yes, you can do that. There's only a few things on this list. So I'm going to start talking about the list and going through things. And I want to give you the theory and the reason why behind a lot of the stuff. And I'm also going to start talking about anxiety as well, because man, oh man, I'm seeing it more than I've ever seen it in history, ever in dogs. But also it's just something that there's a lot of things on this list that contribute to our dog's mindset being in the wrong place. And then down the road, we're experiencing anxiety. And then you're coming to Happy Tails and you're like, fix the anxiety. And it's like, sorry, I can't go to your vet and drug your dog, because unfortunately you can't fix anxiety. So let's start by if your dog is not experiencing aggression or anxiety, you're going to be ahead of the game by knowing the contributing factors to a lot of these things. And if you are experiencing anxiety and aggression, I always talk about anxiety and aggression not being fixable, but I can speak from firsthand that I adopted a dog. I've talked about her last week in my call. I adopted a dog when she was 5 years old, and she came to me with a bite history. I don't know her history. She came to me with a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, a lot of insecurity. And through the 5 years that I've owned her, we have taken her to a whole nother level. So when I talk about her being a fearful dog, she used to be living in fear. Like living in fear 24 hours a day. There was a very, very, very rare moment in a day that I would ever see her not being scared. And now I see the fear come out maybe once every 3 days. I see a moment where she's like, whoa, I'll give you a perfect example. Just before today, getting on this call, I'm going for a walk with her, and a bus is coming right to the stop. And when buses stop and the wheels squeal, it's like, squeak, and then it goes when it stops and the door opens up. If Pickles even saw a bus 5 years ago when I got her, she would book away from it, like terrified, ducking, head down, tail tucked underneath, shaking and trembling, whining and crying, just petrified of the existence of the bus. Today was like a monumental moment for her. So we're walking by the bus. I look down at her and she's just enjoying her walk. Body language is all loose and all good. And the bus comes to a stop, squeal, door opens up right on your street, Bill, where Bill and Melissa, right at their street, door opens up and Pickles looks and keeps walking. Acceptance. Like, she was so fine with the bus today. Like, she was in acceptance today. So there's so much that you guys can do to help your dogs that are experiencing anxiety and aggression already. And so the key is that we're not inadvertently getting the wrong information. So I'll give you an example with this bus situation. Last week, he talked about this. Every time that I walked by a bus, and I think actually my neighbor, actually asked this question, what do you do, especially for our young puppies, when our dogs do freak out and set off? It's like, keep moving, just own the walk, keep moving, be confident, and look for those stress relieving signs. So remember, if I walk by the bus with Pickles and she's like, books away and is shaking and trembling, tail tucked, you don't want to pick her up and love on her, pick her up and kiss her and tell her it's okay and baby talk her and give her all these things and give her treats while she's scared. All of that reinforces the fear. So what have I done for 5 years? There's a bus, squeak, oh gosh, books away, let's go, keep walking. I just keep moving. I own it. I keep moving. There's not a whole lot I can do to try to help her through that moment other than just be like, I'm not scared. We're all fine. Let's just keep going. But I didn't look at her and say, Pickles, you're okay. We're just going to keep walking. Because if I give that reinforcement, I'm reinforcing the fear. So I own it. I lead her. I give her leadership. So we lead. I look at her when she finally starts to relax or gives that shake off or the yawn or the body language relaxes. That's when I stop and say, good girl, Pickles, and keep moving. And lo and behold, here we are. Now, I'm sure she showed acceptance in the past. I don't remember. I just remember today being like, wow, that was an awesome moment. She was totally in acceptance. So we talked so much about that last week. And so I want to start talking about the things this week that can contribute to a lot of the problems that Pickles came to me with. So I want to start with the one that's the most challenging to explain to people, which is number one, number two, and number three. So one of the biggest things, and most of you guys on here are clients. I have a couple puppy owners on here as well who haven't gone through the program yet, but most of you guys are clients. And I would almost assume that when you guys came to Happy Tails and you learned that we used transitional leashes and we used prong collars sometimes, and sometimes we use slip chains, and sometimes we use e-collars or shock collars, you probably thought, I would almost bet that most of you probably thought, ooh, I don't want to hurt my dog. And I agree, right? Like, that's what I love about people, about you guys as customers, is you're kind, loving people that don't want to hurt your dogs. But a lot of people are so worried about hurting their dogs and hurting their dogs' feelings and putting their dogs in a situation that just might be a little bit hard for them. And we want to give them all of the softness in the world. Parents are no different than kids. You struggle with these same philosophies of giving your kids, rules and discipline, but also like letting them be kids and letting them have fun. So I totally 100% get when you read number one and number two and number three. So those of you that don't have the list in front of you, number one, unearned, nonstop petting, cuddling, kissing, touching. Most of you probably don't even realize how much you do it. You're sitting here, dog walks up to you while you're sitting on this call, and your instinct is just reach over and pet, reach over and touch, nonstop. All the time. They come over to this side, reach over and pet. You're sitting there watching TV and your dog walks up to you, you reach over and pet. You walk in the door, you reach over and pet. Your dog paws you, you pet them. They nudge you, you pet them. They look at you cute, you pet them. They stand up and they turn around in a little circle and you get up and you go pet them, and we pet them and we pet them and we pet them and we pet them and we pet them. So a lot of people don't even realize how much they're feeding into this and how much they're physically touching their dogs. And on the flip side, the same. And I will admit that number one and number two are definitely things that I have done. I don't do them nonstop with my dogs, but I've given unearned petting. Of course I have. I'm human. I'm not a total beast, but of course I give my dogs unearned petting and unearned love. And of course I walk in the door sometimes and tell Ginger I love her so much and ask her how her day was. But number two is unearned nonstop verbal doting and baby talk and screeching and excitement. So these two things paired with number three, which is being too soft. Now there's something about being soft with a soft dog and being soft in soft moments. But if you are a soft person with a firm dog, there's a big disconnect here. And this can lead to a lot of our problems, especially if you have a bratty firm dog and that bratty firm dog barks orders at you and pushes you around and you're just conditioned to touching and baby talking all day long. And you don't want to push the button because you don't want to hurt the dog's feelings. You don't want to be mean. And so you're soft with this firm dog. This stuff can lead to a lot of our problems. But let me talk about number one and number two first. So people always say, so you're telling me like petting my dog and baby talking my dog is going to create aggression? No, absolutely not. But it's when are you petting them? So are we feeding into, by the way, number one and number two, this nonstop, just endless giving of love and baby talk leads to anxiety far more than it leads to aggression. And I'll come back to that in a second. But when it potentially can lead to aggression is when we're giving this unearned love nonstop when our dog is a jerk. And I don't mean to be mean when I say that, but oftentimes a lot of you guys probably came to your consultations. And when we said, how would you describe your dog's personality? We get a lot of people. And so by the way, if this is not your dog, then like take a step back for a second, but we get a lot of people that describe their dogs as jerks, bullies, as being pushy, bratty, as being dominant, and we get far worse words that I'm not going to say on here because I don't know if there's kids on here, but we get a lot of descriptions of dogs that are not kind and gentle and loving. And and dogs are loving, right? Almost every dog is loving at some point, but we get all these different personalities. And so if you're sitting on this call and you're thinking, or if you're watching this video and you're thinking to yourself, gosh, I have a brat. I have a dog that just barks orders at me and pushes me around and shoves into my space and likes things on his terms and doesn't like doing things for me. And all you do is love, 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 love. You are stroking that bratty ego and they don't earn it. So I mentioned last week, and a lot of you guys know I have 3 dogs, and a lot of you guys know my dog. So my dog Ginger, she's 12. This dog lives to please me. Actually, Lori's on this call, Lori and Oscar. I'll give you an example with her as well. She's a dog that's really eager to please, like really good dog, listens well. He's not perfect by any means, but listens well. He's eager to please. He's loving, just like my Ginger. I can send Ginger off in the woods and she's chasing a rabbit and I say, come, and she boom, books it to me. And if she speaks English, she literally would say, did I get there fast enough, Mom? Did I do good enough to get your affection? So this dog asks for attention all the time. And I give it all the time because she's earned it. She's not a bratty dog. She's not pushy. She's not egotistical. She's not puffing her chest at me and shoving me around. So when this dog asks for attention, she gets it a lot. And she can handle that without taking advantage of it. So today, Lori, she teaches yoga at Happy Tails every Wednesday. I hire her to like work with our team so that we can work on the same things that I promote to you guys working on with your dogs. So Lori was at Happy Tails today, and her dog Oscar came over to say hello to me, and he's kind of pushy when he says hello at times, and he nudges real hard to like say hello. And she's like, "What do you make of that? Or what am I? Is it it's okay? Is it not okay?" And my first question is, "Well, do you like it? Are you okay with it?" Because with a dog like Oscar or a dog like Ginger, who's very eager to please and very compliant and very gentle and very kind, if that dog is pushy in this moment, it's not a battle I think I'd pick, unless she didn't like it. So if Lori's like, I hate it, okay, we can work through it. But if she doesn't care, Oscar's the kind of dog that can be a little bit pushier. He can be a little pushy for attention and get it and not take advantage of it because he's not a jerk. And so when I say jerk, I don't mean to like name call dogs, but you guys all know some dogs are real big jerks, you know? So when Ginger asks for attention and I give it, she's a great dog. She's an eager to please dog. She's not a highly anxious dog. She's not an aggressive dog. She's not a jerk. She's not a bully. She can handle that. So when we're talking about unearned nonstop petting, cuddling, and baby talk and all of this stuff, if your dog is soft and is very compliant, and I don't mean physically soft, but you know what I mean, personality soft, and is very compliant and is very eager to please you, that dog, that personality of a dog can definitely get more of the stuff that we're talking about here, provided it's not leading to our anxiety, our dog's anxiety. So I will talk about anxiety in this call throughout the call, because the other things, a lot of this stuff leads to our dog being in the wrong state of mind, because every time that we're baby talking our dogs and that we're physically petting our dogs, we are sparking them up. We're firing off that brain. So I want to give you some examples that lead to a lot of behavior problems, but also can lead to anxiety. So I'm just going to give you typical things. So you walk in the door from work, whether your dog is in a crate or not in a crate. Let's say you have one of each. I have one of each. I have a dog in a crate and one that's not. So Ginger walks up. When I walk in the door, I don't say, Ginger, oh my God, hi, good girl. So the second I walk in the door, I don't fire off with energy, because what does energy do? If I fire off with energy, I'm asking her to get crazy. So, and then if I walk over to my crate and I go to open up my crate and I say, Wasabi, I missed you so much. It's time to get out, go to the bathroom. Let's go. And she's in her crate all fired up and all riled up and ready to go. And I open the door and she's like, yeah, and she books out and runs the door because she knows she's going to go outside. And then if I say, you guys ready to go outside? And I open the door and I say, go. And then they're whoosh, rushing out the door. All of this chaos I'm feeding my dogs and all of the fun I'm having with my dogs is potentially going to lead to for one, anxiety, feeding that frenzy and firing off. This is the type of stuff that leads to separation anxiety. You walk in the door and you create anxiety and you create chaos and you create these moments of just like out of control party animal style stuff. So that's the stuff that typically leads to our separation anxiety, because our dogs can't function without that stuff. But taking it a step further, the more that you're giving your dogs all of this soft loving that they love, you're creating almost this relationship where you're drug and they need it and they can't live without it because they're so conditioned to getting it all day long, nonstop, all the time. wherever you go, they just give and give and give. They start to become addicted to you. And now you leave, and then you come back and you create this big party, and you're just feeding this frenzy, and you're feeding all this anxiety, and you're feeding that need to be with you, which also, I just saw this great video I shared on Instagram. This guy brought up a really great point that I don't hammer enough, but when you go to leave, I go to leave, for work, and Ginger's not crated. So I go to leave for work. She does not follow me to the door, which is probably why I don't think about this stuff a lot. But if you let your dog follow you to the door and you shove them away and close the door and leave them staying at the door, that's a really psychological moment for that dog. They don't understand coming and going. They don't understand when you're coming back. And especially if you're creating this massive party when you come back, we're making it even harder on our dogs to function without us. So it's best for you guys, for example, to go put your dogs in their bed, just motivate them over, tell them stay, get them conditioned to being away from you, even throwing some treats on the floor and going out the door. It separates that like door slamming in their face that can lead to some of our separation anxiety. So this nonstop doting, petting, loving, feeding, baby talk, talking to our little dogs all day, it's firing off the brain. It's creating the brain to start to become a lot more movement in that brain, which can lead to our anxiety. Anxiety can lead to aggression. And if you're building your dog's ego, and your dog, like I said, is a brat or a jerk, and you're just building that ego through all of this soft stuff that you're giving them, these are the types of dogs that will it's not a guarantee, I don't want to say often, but those are the types of personalities that are more likely to turn on their owners, meaning turn on their owners, use aggressive tactics, because you built them up to think that they are just like king of the world. And then one day when you're like, no, you can't do that, those brats get mad. And then they start to use tactics to control. So am I saying don't give your dog unearned love? No, that would be crazy for me to tell you not to pet your dog for no reason. But I do want you guys to get in a little bit more of a mindset is like is my dog a brat and a jerk, and do they push me around? And if you're on this call and you're like, I have a dog that's like 50-50 with obedience, stop giving them all this soft stuff all the time. If they're not doing good for you, and they're not listening to you, and they're not being respectful to you, and they're not following through on the orders, being the commands that you're giving them, why are we feeding that ego and stroking that ego and building them up and making them think they're the best thing since sliced bread? So if you have the jerk on this call, take some of that praise away and start making them earn it. Something that I actually believe that a lot of Happy Tails clients really struggle with is giving that really genuine verbal or physical reinforcement when our dogs do commands. Like you guys, a lot of people have gotten conditioned to just saying place, and our dogs go and we go do our thing. And we've gotten away from a lot of times, a lot of our clients get away from like getting on the floor and rubbing that belly while they're in place. I told you to go to place, so I'm going to give you what you want. You gave me what I want. I'm going to give you what you want. So if you're dealing with a jerky, bratty dog, or a disrespectful dog, or a dog that isn't really following through with a lot of your commands, stop stroking that ego and start making them earn it. Make it more valuable. Which is actually another point that has nothing to do with aggression. But the more that we just give for no reason, if you guys are like, sit, and your dog's like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that for you. Nice try. A lot of times they don't do their commands as well as you want them to, because they know they get all this great stuff without doing anything for you. You just give because they exist, and you build that ego. So, when we talk about this give, it actually devalues your praise because they get it all day. I use this example all the time. I'm conditioned to telling my husband I love him like 485 times a day. So I tell him, I tell him I love him all the time, through text, on the phone, in person, like daily. He hears it so often, it means nothing to him because he hears it all the time. I worked for a boss once that only told me kind of like great job, like once every 4 months. I lived for that moment. I knew he liked me because I had a job. I knew I did a good job. I got raises. He kept me. I knew I was performing. I knew through my numbers and my results I was performing, but I didn't get that positive affirmation. When I got it every once in a while, it meant the world to me. So think about the same thing with your praise. If you're just giving all the time, you're devaluing its worth, and it's not going to be as beneficial down the road if they know they get it for no reason. So, talking about like especially the early puppy stages, people get dogs all the time and they want to make their life as good as possible. And I'm in the same boat. It's why I own a dog training business. I love, finding challenges and making dogs' lives better and making owners' lives better with their dogs. But a lot of times people get dogs and they want to give them as much as possible to make them happy. The loving, the snuggling, the kissing, the baby talk, being soft, giving them numbers 4, 5, and 6, giving them freedom, allowing them to be a dog and get on the furniture and do whatever they want. Let the dog be a dog, because that way they'll be happier in life. Letting a dog be a dog and putting that responsibility. So when you say let a dog be a dog, a lot of people mean like just let them do what they want. That's what dogs do. They do what they want. So the more that you give that responsibility, meaning go be a dog with no rules, no leadership, no feedback, no like how to be a good dog. When we just give all this freedom to our dogs, that is so hard on them. Like you're telling them, figure out the world on your own. It'd be like having a kid and just being like, do whatever kids do. You'll figure it out, kid. Like that would be so hard on a kid to not give rules, to not give feedback, to not give discipline, to not give positive, positive reinforcement. So letting a dog be a dog just by giving them all the freedom in the world is epically hard on them. Freedom, in my opinion, is actually one of the most common things that leads to anxiety. And I'm going to tell you why. So number 4, when I talk about freedom, too much time out of the crate and just letting them be free in the house. So when we talk about this, obviously, when we give a dog an entire house or an entire yard, they're more conditioned to just stay moving. Now, I know some of you guys might say my dog sleeps all day when I'm not home, but what happens when knock happens? Boom, they're at the door, they're moving. What happens when there's a noise outside? They're up and they're inspecting it, they're checking it out. What happens when, it's windy outside and the patio furniture hits the side of the house? They're up and they're looking outside. And what happens when there's something going on out front? You hear a kid screaming across the street. And this happens with my dog Pickles. If the kid across the street starts screaming, she pops up out of her sleep and she starts screaming, which is what Shibas do. And starts yodeling at the kid across the street where she was just sleeping and something happened and it triggered a stress response. So the more that we have our dogs out of the crate, the more they're conditioned to be responsive to the things going on in the world. If your crate is near a window, it's a horrible place for the crate. A lot of people put the crate in front of the window or the door so the dog has stimulation all day, but the stimulation is what causes our anxiety, and the stimulation can cause our stress responses. So if your dog's trapped in a box and they see something approaching the house and they're scared and they start and they're trying to get away, they can't get away, they can't use flight. So their only choice is to avoid and shrink and get small or get explosive. So when we put our dogs in front of the door or window, or we allow our dogs the door and window, and they can't handle the stress of the world outside, what a tough life for a dog. I feel so sad for dogs. When people tell me that they don't use a crate and they have dogs that explode out the windows, I feel so sad for the dog because they are constantly put in this stressful situation every day, and they respond in a way that they know, which most of these dogs are using fight responses. They're barking the scare, this thing that they're afraid of, they're barking it away. Or if they're possessive, they're barking it away to say, my house, get away. Both of these situations are potentially dangerous. One's a fear biter. So all of a sudden, little Johnny's friend comes in and you're like, oh, he's all bark, no bite. And little Johnny's friend comes in and he's so used to barking that kid away. He barks, the kid leaves, barks, people leave, bark, people leave because they're just walking by the house. Then bark, all of a sudden kid walks in the door and gets slammed by the dog. And this is where I hear people say, I was so surprised. I'm never surprised when I hear a dog that barks out a window. I'm never surprised when someone says the dog bit and they did not bite out of the blue. They were giving you all the information that you needed, but we didn't advocate for them by taking them away and giving them better feedback. So this is where if you have a dog that's explosive out the window or nervous out the window, use a crate. Don't give them freedom. Freedom isn't good for that dog. So my dog Pickles, the one that lives in fear and nervousness, she spends a ton of time in her crate. She does not chew things. She doesn't pee in the house. She's not destructive. She's not a bad dog, but she's more stressed when she's given the freedom to make all of the decisions that come her way than when I say, here, go here and be safe. So again, this is different personalities. My dog Ginger does not use a crate. I don't have her in a crate. She's fine. She's great. She's perfectly fine being out of a crate and sleeping around all day. She's not firing off. She's not pacing and whining. She's not anxious. She can handle it. So you guys have to evaluate whether freedom is good for your dogs or not. Dogs that are stressed out, nervous, fearful, barking, reactive, using fight responses, I'm telling you 90% of them do not want to be out of the crate and put in the situation to have to make those decisions. If you have a dog that tends to just move a lot and you don't use a crate more often just to say, chill, you're doing your dog no favor. So our dogs that go from window to window to window to window, to mom to get pet, then dad to get pet, then my brother to get pet, then this dog, and then this person, and then I'll go chew on a bone over here. And then, oh, there's a bone over here. I'll go check. Oh, there's somebody outside. This dog that has the busy brain, you need to force, for their own good, force them to stop. So how do you force them to stop? You could place them. You could use your transitional leash or just a regular leash even and just force them to sit next to you, or use your crate. The crate's so easy. So even now I have my puppy. She's in her crate, like just laying in her crate. There's not any reason. She's a good dog. She's not tearing my house apart. She's not peeing and pooping in the house, but I'm not able to watch her. And I know that sometimes if she gets like, stimulated and wants to go from window to window to window right now, I can't help her because I'm on the call with you. So she's in her crate. So don't be afraid of using the crate. And I beg people all the time, don't make it your dream goal to get your dog out of a crate 24/7. It's not, my attitude has changed so much about crates over the years where, I tell people, yeah, it's great to get dogs out of a crate, but not the majority of dogs that I know don't want to be out of the crate all day long. And what I mean by that, of course they do, right? Nobody wants to be in a crate, but they can't always handle the stress of the world. So I know last week we talked a lot about reactive dogs, a lot about dogs that are exploding on walks and they're exploding, at bikes and people. If your dog is doing that during the day while you're gone and you're not using a crate, you cannot come to us or expect your dog to explode all day long and then be perfectly behaved on a walk. If they're in the house where they're like safe and they're exploding, and now you go out in the world and you apply more pressure by getting close to the things they're used to exploding at, it's really quite unfair to correct them during those moments, but to not correct them during the day when they're setting off. So all day long, they're getting reward. Bark, 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 the people walk. Bark, 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 people keep moving. Bark, 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 people keep moving. Bark, 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 people keep moving. You leave the house and you're like, oh man, I want my dog to be better behaved. But they're getting the reward all day long. So I feel like it's on here somewhere, allowing barking, you're asking for barking. Yeah, so number 19, allowing or encouraging your dog to bark. So allowing your dog to bark is even if I know that when something's outside, my dog is going to set off at that window, they're not allowed to have the window. The window's off limits. And so people always say, well, how do I do that? Crate, keep them away from the window. They can't explode at the window over here if the crate's in the room over here. So you can use a crate. You could, when you're home, of course, use your place command. If you want to get really creative, there are ways that you can use electronics to keep a dog away from an area. So you can look up Pet Safe Paws Away. In fact, I'll throw this out there just if you guys are interested. So it's Pet Safe is the brand. I think it's PAWZ Away. So if you guys looked up Pet Safe Paws Away solutions, oh, I just sent that to Larry, not the whole group. Sorry, everyone in a meeting. Pet Safe Paws Away. Okay, so if you guys look up Pet Safe Paws Away. So if anyone is familiar with the concept of invisible fence is designed to keep dogs, oh, good, Tara. So invisible fence is designed to keep dogs in a yard or cats in a yard. Avoidance solutions are meant to keep dogs away from things. So I used to own a local invisible fence franchise. We used to sell or install about 450 to 500 fences around yards per year. We would sell between 2,000 and 3,000 avoidance units. And the avoidance units were these little circular units that are designed to keep dogs away from things. So I'm actually going to give you guys a prime example. My puppy, Wasabi, my dog, first time that I gave her freedom, where I wasn't home, I came home and this wooden crate was chewed to pieces. She didn't chew out of it. She was out of it and she decided to chew it for fun. Only thing this dog has literally ever chewed on in her life. So she doesn't need to use this crate and we don't use it. But because of the crate chewing, we put one of those little discs right under in the crate. So if she's wearing her invisible fence collar and she comes, okay, if she's wearing her invisible fence collar and she comes up to the crate goes beep, 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 and she starts to get a little tap and it increases there. So if she hangs out in this area, the correction level will just automatically increase and then she backs away and it automatically turns off. So when, when she's earned her freedom around the house, she's awesome in the house, but you can use solutions like that to keep dogs away from things. So if you have that dog that explodes and goes ballistic and crazy out the windows, you could certainly put that around the windows and just keep the dogs away from the windows. The other day, one of my clients was talking about this. They have 4 dogs. If you guys have ever heard of Advanced Animal Chiropractic, they're dog chiropractors. They have 4 dogs now, and I'm actually going to look up and show you guys a picture of what I'm talking about. So they have 4 dogs, and their dogs, 2 of their 4 dogs were every now and then exploding at the window, and they crate the dogs when they're gone, but it just was really hard in these random moments to create the, to stop the chaos at the window. And so what they did was they actually frosted the window. So now this is their window. If you guys can see this, they put like a frosting up on the window where you still get light coming in. It's really pretty. They can still look out for little things, but boom, problem solved. So these are like different solutions that if you refuse to use a crate for your dogs who are barking out the window or get stressed. So even if your dogs see something outside and like, they're instantly going into an anxious frame of mind. If your dogs are responding that way, don't give them that window. You're just creating a more negative life for them. So too much freedom, lack of rules, lack of structure. So I talk a lot about the crate because I think the crate is the easiest way just to be like, hey, I need you to go somewhere for a minute and just be there. But also just in general, lack of rules, lack of structure, like creating boundaries with your dogs. We are so soft sometimes where we want our dogs to have the best life possible. So we just let them do whatever they want. And we don't enforce boundaries or enforce rules or create structure because we want them to just be fun, just have fun all day and just be dogs. In theory, I totally get it. But just like kids would not thrive in an environment like that, dogs do not thrive in an environment where they just get to do whatever they want, whenever they want, and, pull down the street wherever they want to go and bust out the door whenever they feel like going for a walk and bark and whine out the door and go get a bone whenever they want to get a bone. Again, I want you to evaluate your dog's personalities to see, can they handle more rules handle more freedom? And the only way that most dogs are going to get to more freedom is when you create these rules and you create the structure and you create the boundaries and you set the limits inside the house. This is how we get a dog like my dog Ginger, who can handle being free out of the crate all day. I love this dog. Like if anybody follows my personal Instagram, my dog's Instagram page, you will see that my emotional attachment to this dog is still on the unhealthy side. Like I joke about how I love her more than I love my husband, but the reality is it's actually true. Like he's the coolest guy on earth, but I love this dog so much. But still, I love her so much, which is why she gets rules and why she has structure and why I apply discipline when necessary and why she gets love and feedback when necessary and when appropriate. So you guys all know I talk about that book a lot by Sean O'Shea. It's called The Good Dog Way, and it's actually called Love Them by Leading Them. Because so often we love them by giving. And he'll talk about this in his first book. He talks about this, how he was giving love and unearned affection and all this doting and all this craziness. And his dogs were out of control, barking, biting, pulling, dragging, like just chaos in life because he was giving them all of this soft stuff, and it can lead to all of our bad stuff. So The freedom, the lack of routine, the lack of structure, the freedom, not using a crate, not allowing downtime. When our dogs get overtired, they get stressed like kids. And when kids get overtired, they become bratty. And when dogs become overtired, they become bratty. A lot of people, especially my puppy owners, will say, you know, their dog was just running all day, running at the park all day, just all, you know, going around all day, like everywhere, just go, 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 go. You got to move them off the couch and they bite you. They get tired too, and they get crabby too. So it's important to give them downtime. So let's just carry on. So I want to go into number 7 and number 8. So we get this mostly with people, again, that get puppies. We just want to play all day and love all day and romp all day and have a fun time all day and get lots of freedom all day and lots of treats all day and lots of all this good stuff all day. But I really want to talk about number 7 and number 8. So remember, I told you guys there's very little that I don't negotiate on. Tug of war, I will never negotiate on. There is a great time and place for the right working dog to play tug of war. And I think that there's some benefit to tug of war for the right dog, but you guys are family, you have family dogs. You're not looking to create a police dog. You guys aren't looking to create a protective dog where your dog will kill somebody for walking in the house. So the reason why, so those of you that don't have the sheet, number 7, rough play, rough housing, tug of war. It's a huge aggressive developer. Pawing at your dog, batting at them, pushing them away. So the more handsy that we are with our dogs, the more that we are asking for and encouraging teeth on skin. The reason I hate tug of war, I'm going to see if I have an example. The reason I hate tug of war is I say, oh, it's time to play with my dog. So I get my toy and I start to play tug of war. Giddy, wasabi, giddy, giddy. And I start playing with her and I'm taunting her and teasing her and she's trying to bite at it. What I'm essentially doing is saying, bite my hand. And she's like, I'm trying. And eventually, so I'm creating frustration. I'm trying to bite your hand. This is an extension of your hand. So I'm trying to bite you. But I'm not quick enough. I'm not fast enough. And then I got it one time, but you pulled away real quick. So I wasn't strong enough. So it starts to teach the dog now that when I offer my fuzzy hand, bite fast, bite hard, and clamp. And so you're asking your dog to become a biter. When we went through the program I went through the police canine personal protection training program at National Canine down in Columbus, Ohio. You can take any dog. I can promise I can take any of your dogs, any dog on this call, I can take and make aggressive within a week. I can make them aggressive within a week. I can make them bite humans within a week. And you might say, my dog, Oscar, oh my God, he's such a sweetheart. There's no way I could do that. Yeah, I can. It's so easy. Aggression's so easy to teach. But tug of war is how you start. Bite at a human. I'm trying. Finally, boom, they clamp and then boom, they start to pull. And now we're playing tug of war with a body part. Then, okay, time to make dinner. Toy goes away and your dog is not done playing. And they start to bite at your arm and bite at your arm and bite at your arm. And now you're out, and you're pulling away. No, stop it. Now we're creating all this chaos, but you asked your dog to bite your arm and to be rough with you. So if any of you have little kids, it's epically important that you don't do this with the little kids because you're teaching your dog it is appropriate to put teeth on skin of children. This is how you create a dog that bites kids. So I'm not saying, so some of you guys might be on this call and say, I played tug of war with my dog till she was 14 years old and she never bit anybody. I'm not saying it's going to create aggression, but it's one of the easiest ways to create aggression is by asking for it, by asking your dog to bite your arm and then feeding into it. The other thing is that every time that you're conditioned, people love to play this way. They love to bat at their dog and to play that way. So every time that we start to bat at our dogs and we start to create that energy with our dogs, it asks them to put teeth on us. Free. So I'm going to see if I can give you guys an example here. Sorry. Hi. Oh, good. You guys see what she's doing? As soon as I start batting, what is she doing? Biting at my hands, right? Bite. I'm batting at her. I'm pushing her away. A lot of people love to play with their dogs that way. And look, as soon as I do, she's going right for the hands to bite, right? So if you're doing this whole, like, I love to play with my dog this way, I'm asking her to bite my hand in that moment. Good girl, that's so much better. So if you guys don't want your dogs to bite you and you don't want to ask for biting, don't do this, because this is how we start to create that, as we start to roughhouse. What I'm doing with Wasabi right now is I'm asking for play. I'm initiating it. I'm creating the play by roughhousing with her. And when I do this, I'm saying time to play. And she's like, okay, cool. How do dogs play? They play by putting their teeth on, they bite. That's how they play. So if you guys are asking for that, that's where the more that, now I did that to show you, this is not how we interact with her, but that's how easy it is to get a dog to start putting their teeth on skin, is just ask for it. The other thing is that when dogs jump up on us and we push them off and we're batting at them, this is how a lot of dogs play. A lot of dogs, I'm initiating play with her right now. I'm asking her to play. So when I'm asking her to play, what is she doing? Shark dog, as we call her, shark dog. But I'm asking her to do what she's doing. But if I'm like, no, stop it, enough, stop it, stop it, stop it. All I'm doing is I'm mad and frustrated and I'm telling her stop it. But really, I'm telling her, get crazy. I'm asking for the chaos. I'm asking for the biting. So make sure that you guys are not asking for that stuff. In a perfect world, when you're interacting with your dog, you're using massage like interaction that can help to relax our dogs and bring down energy levels, not ask for more chaos and more craziness. So a lot of people think that playing rough with their dogs is really enjoyable to their dogs, which it is. Great. It is enjoyable and fun for them, but they should learn that appropriate play with humans is not by putting teeth on skin. Anytime that you're asking for teeth on skin or rewarding teeth on skin, you're asking for a potential biter. So teeth on skin is something that I deem as never acceptable, zero tolerance. So don't ask for it. So I wanted to show you how easy it was to get a dog to start using their mouth, but I don't want you guys to do that with your dogs, because you're asking for dogs to put teeth on skin. By giving permission to put teeth on skin, you're giving permission to bite. Now, let's just say you say, I played that way with my dog till they were 14 years old and they never bit anybody. There's no guarantees they're going to bite, but the goal is not to have a bite and then say, okay, I don't want that again. The goal is to prevent it from ever happening. So that kind of goes along. I'm actually going to jump down to number 17, 18, 19, and 20, because some of this freedom, rough play stuff kind of goes along with that. So for those that are not following along, I'm going to read them. So pulling away or overreacting when your dog playfully or bratty nips or mouths you. So dogs are very simple creatures. They learn by repetition. So if you do this, and this is the response, you do this, this is the response, this, the response, this response, this response. Every time that your dog goes like this, especially my young puppies of the group, goes like this, even playfully, and we go, ow! I hear people all the time say, yeah, I just turn my back, I pull away and I scream. You're giving 3 points of reward. They're controlling your emotions, they're controlling your hand, and then they're controlling your entire body. So what they're learning every time that you go out and pull away, you're teaching them that their teeth control you. So you definitely don't want them to think that. So young puppy people, you guys know I kind of showed you that drop position where you settle in and just take control. It doesn't fix the biting. It doesn't stop puppy biting, but it at least manages it until we get to a point to say, not acceptable, cannot do that anymore. So the other thing is ramping up your dog or riling your dog, amping up your dog, encouraging high energy, arousal, asking for excitement. So people love to play with their dogs. They love to chase them around the house, and they love to play ball, and they love to like get them all riled up and let's go, let's get the party started. They love to do this stuff with their dogs because it's fun. But the more that you amp up your dog and you rile up your dog and you stimulate your dog and you ask for chaos, the more that you're going to condition them that chaos is the way to be. This is the stuff that more often leads to anxiety before it becomes aggression. But whenever a dog goes into an aggressive state, they're not just like chilling like a villain and then just like bam, and they bite for just no reason. Like it's typically sparked, of course, by fear. Now, of course, startle factor can play a factor. So if you have a dog that can get a little ornery when you go to like move them to wake them up, that is a little different of a category for aggression as well, because they're not making the conscious decision to be aggressive. But when you go to like move a dog, if you have a dog that does get startled easily, like prep them. Hey, Winnie, wake up, Winnie. And then let's go. Now you can communicate. But when we're amping up our dog and riling up our dogs, this is usually the frame of mind that they're in when they bite. So it's not always the case by any means, but energy is not your friend. Energy and excitement and being amped and being overstimulated is the stuff that leads to our anxiety, the stuff that leads to all of our bad behaviors, and the stuff that can lead, remember, not guaranteed, can lead to aggression. So the more that you're sending your dog into a tizzy, especially picture, ding dong, your friends are here and everyone's coming in and they're like, the more you send your dog into that tizzy, the more likely they are, of course, to have bad behaviors, jump and mouth and be all crazy. And if somebody says, like, if you have a guest come over and everyone's like, puppy, oh my God, and someone goes to push your dog away and your dog's not conditioned to that, some dogs will be like, whoa, what the heck is that? Boom, and they'll bite out of the blue. But again, creating that chaos and that energy, it's way more detrimental when it comes to anxiety than aggression, but that's the state of mind that they're in when they go into the aggressive state. So don't put them there. If your dog is conditioned to just be chill all day long, you're not going to have nearly as many obedience problems, nearly as many impulse control issues. The likeliness of anxiety is far less, and the likeliness of aggression, because our dogs aren't going from here to here, to here, to here, to here, to here. You're more likely to see aggression when our dogs are conditioned to spiking than you are if we can just teach them how to be chill throughout the day. So amping up, riling, pushing around, encouraging or allowing barking. We talked about barking earlier, that adrenaline, the excitement, all of this stuff creates a whole mindset for dogs that's just not good. And it's the mindset that they're in when they bite and when they're anxious. So the more that we can condition our dogs to embrace the world swirling around us with just calmness, the less likely we are to be reactive. So I talked about Lori today, right? Lori, who does our yoga. She talks about this all the time in yoga. If anybody's into yoga or meditation, you know that the whole goal of this, when you start to practice things like meditation or start to practice the skills that you learn in yoga, the idea is that when the world is swirling around you and when all this chaos is flying your way, what do we as humans do? Lori talked about it for a straight hour today. We clench up, we clench our jaws, carry all the stress in our back and our shoulders because we're not good at just being like, I'm fine. And that's where, I'll use a perfect example with her today. Multiple poses that we were in, she's like, unclench your jaw. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's clenched. Every single time she said, she put us in a pose, immediately you start to tense up, jaw clenches, and we start to go into this state where the goal through this yoga practice is to chill when the world is throwing all this chaos at us. It's not easy, but you can practice it. So how do we do that with our dogs? The more that we send them in, we purposefully send them in this chaos, we purposefully send them in the tizzy, they're more likely to live that tizzy and to stay in that tizzy rather than being stable. So don't ask for it. So going back to this roughhousing, again, I want you to ask, are you getting your dog amped up and overstimulated when you walk in the door, when you walk up to the crate, when the doorbell rings? I see this a lot with people, ding dong, Wasabi, who's at the door? Let's go see. We send them into that tizzy. And so they go to the door and they're full of this excitement. And then we go outside and the pizza's there and we're like, oh, Wasabi, the pizza man's here. We're creating the excitement. Then time to go outside. You want to go outside? Who wants to go outside? Go. Creating that excitement. All of this stuff, every time you're constantly sending your dog flying through that tizzy, you're more likely to see aggression form down the road because we're conditioning that brain to be out of control. So think about, how do I get my dog to be in a more stable mindset throughout the day? That's the biggest goal, is how do I create that? So place command, your own emotions, your crate, not asking for excitement, not pushing and pawing, not pawing around. All of that stuff creates this unhealthy mindset. So I'm going to come back to number 20 in a minute, but I'm going to go back now to number 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So for those that are not following around, the things that it says: allowing them on furniture, couches, bed, allowing your dog to sleep in bed with you, picking up your dog, carrying around your dog, allowing them to be on top of you, be on your feet, crawl all over you, allowing them to push into you and claim your space and own your space. This is a hard one for a lot of people because they misinterpret pushy. So I want to talk about the difference between a dog that is just resting up with you, snuggling, and the dog that is dominating you. So I want to start by why these things are important. So levels mean something to dogs. So every time that a dog wants to display dominance, they're going to get bigger and they're going to get higher. So dominant dogs will puff their chest out to get bigger, and then they'll climb that ladder. So climbing the ladder. So if a dog is in like doggy daycare, let's just say, or if two dogs are playing, a way that they may start to show dominance over each other is they'll put their head on the other dog and just push down, or they'll jump up on the dog and they'll just stand on them, or they'll mount them or hump them. They'll put their paw, like it'll be very deliberate. So like Karen, you have Lucy and Vlad. You may see that Lucy goes up to Vlad and just kind of like lays her head down and they just snuggle like this. And then there may be times that Lucy walks right up to Vlad and goes like this and pushes down. There's a difference between those two motions. And so like, I want you guys to even look at, when your dogs are like, sitting on the floor next to you, or if you do allow them up on the furniture, which I'll come back to, if you do allow them, and they go over to like kind of snuggle and they just kind of like settle in. There's that being on top of you. And then there's the dog that you say sit, and your dog's like, okay. And they sit and they go boom, and they put their paw on top of your foot. Total brat move. So the difference between the two is that when a dog wants to display dominance over other people or over other dogs, they're going to get above them or higher than them. So going back to, if you describe your dog as a bratty, pushy dog that barks orders at you, that doesn't listen to you, that doesn't like to make you happy, that dog shouldn't be on the furniture. They haven't earned it yet. Being allowed on the furniture is an earned right. It's earned by being a good dog, by being a respectful dog, by being obedient. So I don't need a perfect dog, but if I have a dog that every single time I give them a command, they go, no, in their own little dog way, that dog hasn't earned the power to get up on the couch. So I would not give that dog, I would not give dogs the power of furniture and the power of levels until they've earned it. So I am 100% not against dogs on the furniture, not against dogs allowed on the couch. Wasabi sleeps with me. She's earned it. She started sleeping with me just a few months ago, and she's a little over a year and a half old. She has finally gotten to a point where I feel like she has earned the ability to be in our bed. Not to say she can't lose it. So, I mean, just like with kids, you give them a little bit of freedom. If they take advantage of it, I don't know if your parents are like mine, but if I took advantage of my parents, they gave me the car and they said, you can go out, be home by midnight. And I want to know, who's in the car. If I go have friends that aren't supposed to be in the car, get in the car, and I come home at 1 o'clock in the morning, well, guess what? I don't get the car anymore. I lost the freedom I had because I took advantage of it. If your dogs, throughout their life, if they lose the power by starting to become bratty, or by starting to challenge you, or growling at you, or biting you, by no way should that dog be allowed on the furniture. Not because I don't want them to be cozy, but because I don't want them to have power. So again, who's in control? If we're giving our dogs this power, and especially the young puppies of the group, I do not recommend that young puppies are allowed on the furniture, because right now in this early stage of their development, they're trying to figure out, like, where do I fit in this pack? Or if you have a new rescue, where do I fit in this pack? Like, who's in control? Who calls the shots around here? If I'm giving my dogs all this unearned freedom and all this doting and lots of just be a dog, and I'm letting them on the furniture and they're sleeping in the bed with me, I am just stroking that ego, and I'm communicating, dog is here, humans here. So then if you bring your puppy to Happy Tails and you're like, train them, your dog's going to be 1,000 times better for us than they are you, because you've already established the relationship as you're the low guy on the totem pole. So that's why it's so important for the early stages that we don't give power to dogs yet. Make them earn it. So if any of you on this call are like, gosh, my dog is not perfect, I never expect perfection, but I have a good dog, like willing to please, eager to please, maybe not always, but a lot of the time, they're not using aggression toward me, they're not exploding out the window, then sure, maybe I can start giving them some of that power. But if that gets to their head, maybe we have to back off a little bit. So again, I'm not against these levels, but picking up our dog is promoting them. So if your dog is, you scoop them up, there's that level, promote them right to VIP for acting like a crazy dog. So I'm not opposed to picking your dog up. I pick up Wasabi and I kiss her. I never pick her up when she's anxious, scared, nervous, which is never, fearful, barking, aggressive, out of control, chaotic, just did something wrong. That's a reward. Picking up as a reward. So if you have a little dog, you don't want to pick up your dog just after they've done something wrong, or if they're in the wrong state of mind. That level is reward. The other thing is just when our dogs are on top of us and pushing into us. So a lot of times dogs will be pushing into us for one of two reasons. Well, one of three reasons. One, they're pushy and they like to push you around. So big dogs especially love to use their weight to their advantage, and they like to push you around and you move. So if your dog tends to be a leaner, and there's a difference between like leaning into you, because I like to be pet and I'm a really good dog, so you pet them, and then a dog likes to lean into you to push you out of the way, and then you move. So the dog that's pushy and bratty, that shoves into you, don't allow them to own that space. I'm going to show you what I mean by that in a minute. But the dog that is clingy to you, so this might be like a Mally, for example, the dog that is clingy to you because they're more on the nervous or fearful or insecure side, I don't want those dogs to be glued to my leg either, because I want to teach them you're fine without being glued to my leg. That's how we build confidence. The dog that wants to push into me, you're not allowed to push into my leg because you're being a jerk. That's just disrespect. Then you get the dogs that when they're easily distracted on walks, so those of you that have been through formal training, if your dog is conditioned to walking and then all of a sudden they see a squirrel and they lean into you and they touch you, they're cheating. They're cheating. They're saying, I can pay attention to that squirrel and not have to pay attention to my owner. And in that situation, you're going to bump them off your space too. So what I mean by that is if anybody has a pushy dog, I don't have a pushy dog that I can demonstrate this with, but let's pretend that this chair is my pushy dog, okay? So I tell my dog sit, my dog sits and then leans into my leg. What I want you to do is not move out of the way, because what you're doing every time your dog pushes into you and you step aside, what you're communicating to your dog is, oh, I'm sorry, my bad, let me give you your space. And you're giving up that space. So every time that your dog shoves into you, if it's bratty, or to be honest, I want you to do the same tactic, a little different if they're fearful or clingy to you, and if they're cheating on a walk, what you do is you take your leg and you bump them. So you don't kick them, but you just bump them off of you. Create your own space. So if your dog leans into you, so I say sit, my dog sits and then leans, I just bump. I'm going to create that space. So the reason why that's important is that, remember, dogs learn through repetition. So every single time that my dog leans and I move, leans and I move, leans and I move, or the dogs that lay down on your feet, and you'll know the difference between the dog that finally, you have them sitting for so long and they get really tired and eventually they roll onto their hip and then eventually they lay down and they're on your foot. There's that. And then there's a dog that you say down and they say, okay, I'll lay down on your foot. And they go lay on your foot. Very big difference between the two. And when your dog purposefully, or some dogs you say sit and they go, okay, and they sit on your foot, or you say sit and they say, okay, they sit and they very deliberately, I want you guys to start looking at this because most people miss it, but they very deliberately sit and then go, and they put their paw right on your foot. It's such a jerk move. What they're saying is, I'll play your stupid little game, but I'm still above you. And when you say down to your dog, if your dog learned the down command with us, you're telling them, submit to me right now. And if your dog is, obedient, they know if I don't, there's going to be a consequence. So fine, I'll do it. I don't like it. So I'll just lay on top of you and I'll dominate you. So when they do that, all you do, so even if I say a command and my dog lays down and just puts their foot right here on me, all I'm going to do is pop them off. So I'm not going to kick my dog off of me, but pop them off of you. Own that space back. You're not being a jerk. You're being a leader and you're communicating to your dog. My space is my space. You have to be respectful of theirs as well. So I'll give you an example of that. If your dog doesn't love physical touch and you say sit, I own 2 dogs that don't love physical touch, one of them being Wasabi. When I say sit, if I reach in to pet her, she goes like this. Ugh. She does not like physical touch. 2 of my dogs, they're not known for liking, the breed is not known for liking physical touch. So if I have a dog, gosh, it got real sunny out there. I love it. So if I have a dog that is not conditioned to physical touch, understand that and give them that respect their space the way that you want, you want them to respect yours. But when we allow our dogs, we are conditioned to loving our dogs, being on top of us and snuggling with us and kissing us. And actually in puppy preschool this past weekend, 2 different puppies that wrapped their paws real tight around my arm and around the leash, total control tactic. So they're not hugging you because they love you, they're controlling you. And we talked a lot about that in class. So I really want you guys to ask yourselves, like when you're talking about who's in control in this relationship, who really is the leader of this relationship, if your dog is conditioned to always pushing into your space, and always being on top of you and always jamming into you, it's really important that you claim that space and say it's not okay. Because you can actually create possessive aggression in your dogs by allowing them to constantly possess your space. Then one day your husband comes to kiss you goodnight and say goodnight, and the dog bites your husband in the face because they think they own you. And they don't think that that person has a right to come near you because you've allowed them to dominate you and own your space and claim your space. You gave the power to them. So it's really important, especially in our early stages, that we're not asking or allowing our dogs to always be on top of us. It's a potentially dangerous act. I want to look at this. Tara just said, I recently let Maddie sit on my lap in a recliner. Most of the time she relaxes, dozes off. Once in a while she takes and puts a paw on my hand for no reason. I remember what you said about this. Remove it, put it on hers. Okay. She usually never does it again during that time. And once in a while repeat. Yeah, so I don't totally 100% know your relationship with Maddie, but if you said Maddie's a really good dog, she's very respectful, she tries very hard to be good, she does not have separation anxiety, she does not have any anxiety. Like separation anxiety, again, the more that we're clinging our dogs to us, the more likely we are to create separation anxiety, where they thrive to be touching us and on top of us. So if you were like, she's mentally stable, she's very respectful, she's a great dog, she listens to me, our obedience is really solid, she tries really hard to do her best, maybe she's earned that right to be up there. But yes, when she does this, then yeah, so what you can't do is pull your hand out because she just won, you moved out of her space. So you don't want to, okay, good. So you don't want to pull your hand out. I want you to bump your hand off so that you bump it and you keep that space. You don't move the space and then go on top of it. Now it's just a game. We're just going to keep playing this game, keep playing this game. So the key is that when our dogs claim our space, we bump them off, and then you could go on top if you wanted to. I don't think it's necessary, but the key is being no, and then you keeping your hand right there. You don't get to claim it. So if you pull your hand out, she wins. She owns that space and she learns it. So most people have no idea that they're doing this, but every time I see a dog, so many dogs do it. Every time I deliberately see a dog be a brat and go dominate their owners their owners go, oh, and they just move the other way. And they very politely say, sorry, Queen Winnie, that was your space, not mine. So again, now a dog like Ginger, who lives to please me and who is eager to make me happy and who's very obedient and doesn't have any issues. She's like literally walking Jesus in a dog's body. When this dog is in my space or puts her paw on me or nudges for attention, I give it. She's earned it. So it's very different, right? So we're looking at personalities. So anyone on this call, if you have the jerk brat that loves to push you around, own your space. If you have the dog that's nervous and fearful and clings to you for support, own that space, but for a totally different reason. What you're trying to do, and this is so emotionally hard for owners, but when you have a dog that's like, oh, save me, and you're bumping them off of you, like it puts them in a mindset where they're like, well, crap, if I can't cling to you, like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And eventually they realize I'm fine. And they start to learn that they don't have to be dependent on your leg and glued to your leg. So when our dogs that are nervous and fearful glue to us, don't encourage it. You're not helping them get any more confident. So, and also making sure not to feed into it. So the other thing, I started just briefly talking about this, but giving into your dog's demands, this is so important for your bratty dog, your pushy dog, your aggressive dog, and especially your puppies, mostly puppies. So when I talk about giving into demands, one of the reasons that we don't recommend people to use a bell to potty train their dog is it's not really potty training the dog. It's outdoor training the dog. You're teaching the dog to go outside. Outside is fun. It's Disney World. So when you teach a dog that ding means you get to go outside, well, of course, outside is way more fun than inside. So when a dog goes ding, it's their way of saying, hey, human, get up, do what I want to do. Take me to Disney World. And you go, oh, okay, puppy must have to go outside. And you get up and you jump to it and you take them out. So the more that repetition happens, the more the dog learns they control you. The bell is the way to control you. The same rules apply when we have a dog that brings a ball to you, brings a ball and spits it out at you. Like if you pick up that ball and play, what they're saying is, hey, human, get up, play ball with me. And you're like, okay, I'll go play ball. And so you go play ball. Okay, not a big deal. And then your dog comes over and they nudge you and they paw at you for attention. And so you give it because you love them. They're so cute and they're just so perfect little puppies. You want to pet them all the time. So your dog is saying, hey, human, stop what you're doing and pet me. And you're like, okay, fine, I'll do that for you. And then your dog stares at goes to the water bowl, lick, 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 woof, barks at the water bowl. And you're like, oh, the water is empty. Of course my dog needs water. They need water to survive. So you pick up the bowl, you go fill it up. What your dog was saying is, hey, fill up my water bowl. And you're like, okay. And you jump right to it and you go fill up the water bowl. The more that you feed into this, what you're teaching your dog is that your dog is a trainer of humans and you are the very obedient human. You're a very good human and your dog is a very good human trainer. And your dog is starting to learn that they control you and they give you the commands. They tell you when to pet them. They tell you when to go outside. They tell you when to play ball. They tell you when to put water in their bowl. They tell you when to eat. So if you have a dog, my dog Ginger nudges me and paws me for attention all the time. And I give it all the time because she's earned it. She's earned that right. Just like Lori earlier, who was asking about her dog, he's pushy. Is it okay? Well, first of all, do you like it? If you're okay with it, I'm okay with it because I know he has the right personality. It's okay for him to be a little pushy. It's okay to have some give and take. So that's actually a kind of like a message with this whole thing is that a lot of this stuff your dogs will earn over time, that give and take. And we may have to go backwards or we may get to go forward, but I give into Ginger's demands because Ginger gives into all of my demands. Like not perfectly, but she's pretty darn perfect and pretty eager to please. So when she asks me to do things, I do them sometimes. In theory, my dog Pickles would not have any power. She's my fear biter. She's my anxious one. She would not have any power in theory. Now, do I give her power sometimes? Yeah, I know the potential consequences. I take those risks. So this is where you guys get to decide whether you want to take the risk or not. But giving into the dog's demands, if you have a bratty dog that's like about doing things for you, stop giving into their demands. You're just reinforcing that they control you, not vice versa. So I want to talk really quick about 14, 15, and 16. So 14 says giving your dog high value toys and treats. That's like real animal product or whatever is like amazing to your dog. So typically real animal product, massively bad, bad. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But if your dog is like, my dogs have never had real animal product, but if my dog was like obsessed with the tennis ball, they may not be able to handle that tennis ball, because obsession over things can lead to our possessive aggression. So giving your dog super high value toys and treats, messing with them when they eat or chew on a bone, or constantly taking them away, this is how we potentially create our possessive aggression. So in theory, yes, you should be able to go take them away from your dog, but a dog's natural instinct to possess is common in almost every dog. So little things I want you to look for in terms of body language is your dog gets the toy and you go put your hand near it. Does your dog just keep chewing, or do they go like this? And they just move? Do they just move and give their back to you? Do they just get up and go somewhere else? Do they stop altogether and so if you see the body language where your dog's chewing, you come and you put your hand near them, if they hunker down and they stop chewing and they look at your hand, they're possessing that. They're owning it. And they're telling you through body language, don't you dare take that. And maybe you take it, even though your dog's saying don't do it, you take it and your dog lets you, cool. But the more, if you're not reading this body language, the more that you take your dog when they are in fight, flight, or avoidance, if they're in acceptance, you're in a good spot. So if you go to take their food or their toy and they're chew, and you go to take it and they're chew, and then you just take it away and they're like, okay, cool. And they go walk away. They're in total acceptance of you taking something. But it is totally normal for a dog to go into fight, flight, or avoidance and to show body language that says, this is mine. So if a dog, when you go near their stuff, if a dog gets up and just slightly moves or even goes to a different room, they're possessing it. Doesn't mean that they're possessive aggressive, but they're owning it. They're saying that this is mine and you don't have a right to take it. So you have that, or you have the dogs that will freeze up and give the body language. The body language will typically be tighter shoulders. They lean in over it. Some dogs will just put their paw right up on top of it. They'll give whale eye. Whale eye is where your hand's over here and they look at you like this. That's whale eye, super dangerous body language to say I'm close to biting. But when they freeze up, so even if like they're eating their food or chewing on a bone and you walk by and pet them and they immediately just freeze for a second, and then you keep walking and they go back to chewing, what they're telling you is they were possessing that item. It does not mean that they will go into fight, but the more that you see that negative body language, it is worth recognizing. So I watch it very closely with my dog Wasabi, who I always talk about how she's so good and she's so easy and she's so compliant. I was walking her off leash in my neighborhood at 4 months old. She's a really good dog. I say come and she's right there. That's probably the best command that she does. She's a very, very obedient dog, very good dog. I actually describe her as very kind. She's very gentle. She's very loving. She's very balanced. She's a possessive aggressive biter. So at 9 weeks old, when I got her, I had her 4 days and I was on a walk and someone in my neighborhood in the winter didn't pick up a pile of poop. She got a piece of frozen poop in her mouth. As a puppy, I tried to pop it out with the leash. She wasn't giving it up. I dropped down to the ground, went to pry her mouth open, and she nailed my hand. Aggressively, bad, broke skin. It was not a little puppy bite or little nibble. It was a possessive grush. She went, "Rah!" and she nailed my hand. So at 9 weeks old, we got to work on this right off the bat. And it happened again when I was working through it. This is obviously gross, but she loves poop. So early as a puppy, when she would poop, she'd turn around and want to go eat it. So I'd have to pull her away. But when I was working through that and trying to pick up her poop and she wasn't allowed to eat it, she nailed my hand again and broke skin for a second time at 10 weeks old. I didn't train this dog to be that way. She came with possessiveness. Almost all dogs have the want to possess, but she came with possessiveness and she took it to aggressiveness. That was her stress tactic. I'm stressed out. You're trying to take something I want. I'm going to use fight. So I had to do a lot of training and a lot of work with her when it came to that. Just the other day, like literally 2 nights ago, Monday night, I'm sitting on the couch. She's chewing on a bone. She's earned the freedom to be on the couch. She had a bone up there. She's chewing on it very gently. I, out of curiosity, go to pet her. She stopped chewing on it. And she looked at my hand and I was like, okay, we got some work to do still. So what does that mean? I'm not going to take it from her. Work to do does not mean I take. So if you are conditioned to constantly taking from your dog, you're teaching them that you're a threat. And you're teaching them that when your hand reaches in, it means the thing I have, you are taking away. So that's not how you build that. So how you build that is I touch her and nothing happens. Touch her, nothing happens. Touch her, nothing happens. I'm hearing somebody, but everybody is muted. That is very strange. You guys hear that too? Yeah, it's very strange. Everybody's muted. I'll have to keep an eye on that. But so the way that you do this is, and this is different with every dog. So if you're dealing with this, talk to us before you do it. But for me, I'm going to go near her and not touch her. I'm going to go near her and not reach for her. I'm going to go near her and not apply any extra pressure. And I'm going to build her confidence to learn that just because I touch you doesn't mean I'm taking this. So it's really important that we're not constantly conditioned to just keep taking things away from our dogs, because we can build a lot of frustration. Is it a guarantee they'll bite? No, not at all. But it's best to know, don't constantly take. Don't stick your face in your dog's food. Don't constantly take their food away just so you can show them who's boss. Like, again, if you have the right relationship with your dog, you should be able to take things, but it's earned. Like, you have to have a respectful relationship before you're able to take things away from them. So I am not, something else that I am not negotiable on. There's 3 things I'm not negotiable on ever. Teeth on skin, never. I'll never tell you it's okay. Tug of war, I'll never tell you it's okay. Real animal product, I will never tell you it's okay. I will never tell you to take the risk. So when you give real animal products like rawhide, pig's ears, bully sticks, the the marrow bones, when you give your dog real animal product, their natural instinct to possess is increased in most dogs. So you might be able to take a bone, a Benny bone, food, blah, 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 blah. But all of a sudden you get something really high value and you give them real animal product. This can get a dog to turn on a dime and take you out. And I mean that, I'm going to actually say, like, literally. I had a client, got a puppy, went through puppy preschool with us, did a 19-day residency early on, just like Wasabi, early on, growling around food a little bit, telling them right off the bat, that dog had possession aggression in him, like brand new as an early puppy, was growling when they would go near the food. So we worked through it. Don't take the food, don't taunt the dog, hand feed, do different things to build the dog's confidence. So fast forward a year later, they have dropped their standards. If I gave them this list, these people are actually good friends of mine now, so I know them very well. If I gave them this list, there's a lot on this list that they were doing. Dog was sleeping in bed with them. In my opinion, shouldn't have been. The dog was allowed on the furniture, shouldn't have been. Stopped using a crate, was exploiting out the window, learning how that worked every day. They, about the obedience, because the dog was like good enough for them, which, that's probably most people. They did not rough play, but they allowed the dog to put teeth on skin all the time. I thought it was super cute. They were super soft on this dog, like very loving, snuggling, pedaling, baby talk. Gave the dog a rawhide, wanted to see if they could take it. Said drop, dog spit it out, they took it. But the dog growled when the husband took it. So they gave it back to him. Point number 1, they just rewarded the behavior. They growled, gave the dog the rawhide. So husband said again, drop, dog dropped it, towered over it, put his paw on it. They corrected him. No, they actually used the button and said no. Dog backed up, but all the body language was bad. In my opinion, they should have moved him away from the bone rather than going to take it. But so they went to take it. He growled again. And the wife said, well, let me see if I can do it. Gave the bone back, point of reward. Now, the wife, super soft. I love this woman. She's a good friend of mine, beyond soft, like the softest, most loving, lovely human being on the planet. Should not have had a dog, should not have had this firm dog with how soft she was. Went to go take it. He pinned her to the ground and he shredded her. He tore up her back, ripped up the back of her arms. She was in the hospital, nerve damage, like shredded. She was mauled by her dog. And so the thing is, am I telling you your dog is going to maul you by giving a rawhide? Absolutely not, like not even. But there was so much mismatched in this relationship. The dog, we knew from the day they got it, it came to them with a possessive aggression tendencies. And throughout this dog's next year to, like, it was a little over a year old when it did this, the relationship was very clear to this dog. Dog was in charge, owners were soft. Lovely, lovely people. Like I said, good friends of mine now. It's just at their wedding, like good friends of mine, but they're very soft people with a very firm dog. And the dog like literally mauled their owner. The dog was euthanized. And if I'm completely honest, it was the right decision, because the next time that they challenge this dog in that same way, that dog is going to do more damage. And he did a lot of damage. So the dog learned in that moment how powerful he was. And the next time they challenge him and take something from him that he wants, the next outcome is going to be worse. I did not make the decision. They made the decision for themselves, but I validated it, because I'm telling you that when we get a dog that actually will maul an owner, it was not a bite, it was a maul. When a dog will actually maul its owner to possess something as stupid as a bone, like the potential the next time they take something that dog values a lot is very high. But here's the reality. My message to you guys is not that your dog is going to kill you when you give it a rawhide, but I don't recommend, it's not even worth it. So if anyone on this call is like, oh gosh, I've been giving them for a year, just honestly throw them away and just stop doing it. Even if you've had no issues, it's not worth it. I have seen dogs, the stuff that I've seen come out. Oh, Karen even said bully sticks are a problem. The stuff that I've seen come out in dogs where we've never seen them before is insane. When you give that real animal product, I just don't recommend giving it. On the same token, if you have a dog that is just obsessed, like beyond obsessed with something, my recommendation is that you throw it away. If you have a dog that it's fine to love a toy. Wasabi loves the Frisbee, loves the ball. When I say drop and come inside, she just spits it out and comes inside, and she doesn't turn around, stare at the window for the next 45 minutes. But if she did, honestly, I'd throw it away. I don't want the obsession. It's not good for the mentality. It's more likely to create possessive aggression. Okay, the last part about this, and then I'll open it up. If anybody's got any questions, go ahead and start listing them. But so number 21, 22, 23, 24 goes back to a lot of what we talked about yesterday, or I'm sorry, last Wednesday, overstimulating them with too much in an environment that they can't handle. So if I was to have Pickles or even Ginger, who's shy, she's just a shy dog. If I was to have her at a party with 100 people, is not a good environment for them. Wasabi would love it. She loves people. She probably would love it. She'd be fine. I don't put her in that position anyways, but she'd probably be fine. My fear biter, my fearful dog, and my shy dog, they don't want to be in that position. So if you have the kind of dog that does not love the presence of people, when you have people over, put your dog away. Don't force them. Don't force them to have to be put in the situation they don't want to be in. So 22, lack of advocating when they're telling you that they're anxious, stressed, nervous, scared. So we talked about that last week. Baby talking and petting and rewarding, anxiety, nervousness, aggression. So when your dog is shaking from the fireworks, they're petrified, and they're upstairs in the bedroom or the bathtub, shaking from the fireworks, and you crawl in and you sit and you hold them and you pet them and you tell them it's okay and you calm them down through these fireworks. You're not calming them, you're rewarding them, and you are telling them that you love the anxiety and you love the fear. You cannot love anxiety out of a dog. You cannot love fear out of a dog. You cannot love comfort into a dog, and you cannot love aggression out of a dog. So remember that your petting and your baby talk and all of this softness is reward. That's how we tell dogs we want more of something. So don't feed into that stuff. Not respecting body language and the lack of understanding. So last week we talked about when your dog is presented with something new, people, places, dogs, things, you want to look, how are they responding? What's their body language telling you? You evaluate that body language to what they're telling you, and then you read their response. So often the bites happen because owners are not advocating. My mom insists on touching my dog who's terrified, and I don't want to hurt her feeling. So every time she comes over, I don't want to tell her, no, don't pet Pickles. So I just cross my fingers and go, oh, I hope this goes well. Then she bites. That's 100% my fault. Like 100%. That story is not true, by the way. My mom's super respectful of my dog situation, but that happens all the time where people don't want to hurt someone's feelings, or they don't want to say no to somebody. Or I told the story last week, my neighbor's out walking with her Bernese mountain dog, and a kid's like, can I pet your dog? And is already in the dog's face before she can say, I wouldn't do that. And she just crossed her fingers, like, thank God that kid didn't get slammed in the face by that dog. But if you have a 120-pound dog nailing a kid in the face, guarantee you're getting a lawsuit. And I guarantee the guilt, she's a mom of 2 boys, the guilt that her dog did that to a child's face will destroy her. And all of these things, if you guys have dogs that show stress, nervousness, fear, anxiety in any situation, stop putting them in it. Like you're just asking for them to respond and to bite. So many times dogs struggle with people, shy, nervous, insecure dogs struggle with people coming in a room. So I tell people, well, when people come over, just put them in the crate. Well, I don't want to do that. I want to like pull people's hair out sometimes, because it's like, you want to put your dog in a situation they don't even want to be in. And then you hope that they make a good decision. And then when they don't, you're mad at the dog. And unfortunately, the dogs pay the price in these situations. So when we have dogs that can't handle certain situations, I told you guys that my dog Pickles is a fear biter. Like I had to learn in our first year, we didn't even adopt her. We were just fostering her. And then the rescue was going to euthanize her. So we kept her. But in that first year, we were learning what her triggers were. We were learning what she couldn't handle in the world. My husband's butt, the back of his leg got slammed top and bottom teeth once when he went and grabbed a squirt bottle off the counter, and he grabbed a rag and he went squirt, 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 squirt. And he started to use it. She ran across the room and she nailed him, broke skin top and bottom through jeans. Like we had no idea that was a trigger for her. So now when we clean, we put her away. Sounds crazy, but I'm not going to put her in that situation and say, hope she doesn't do that again. She clearly made it clear she's willing to do that. So we put her away when we clean now. The other day, she vomited all over my bedroom. Obviously wasn't feeling very good. She pooped in my closet, but that wasn't a behavioral thing. She was definitely not feeling good. There was vomit everywhere. So we had to clean it up. The first thing we do is remove her. I know if I go squirt, squirt, squirt and do this, the potential that maybe she triggers is there. I know it's there because she's done it before. Now, the other option, which I have done many a times, is when I know my dogs struggle, I work through it. So I go to get the vacuum out. I don't allow her to attack it. So I either put her away to vacuum or I get her on leash and I communicate expectations. So I really want you guys to think about those last points, is that so many of the bites, the majority of the bites that we see at Happy Tails are fear bites. I'd probably say 90% of the bites are fear bites. We put our dogs in situations they couldn't handle. We didn't read them. We didn't advocate for them. We didn't help them. They responded. And now we have a bite on our history. So don't ever subscribe to this I hope it goes well mentality. Read your dogs. They're telling you how they feel. And if you're not sure how to read them, like keep doing these calls and keep coming to classes, because we'll talk about body language a lot. Do your research, go online. There's so much you guys can learn online, but really understand what your dogs are trying to tell you and stop forcing them in situations they just don't want to be in. So, okay, I have a whole bunch of questions. I'm going to go through some. So Lizette said, what if I pet her, rub her chest, and then she puts her paw on my arm? Should I now allow that? Okay, this is a good question. So you have to ask if Mally is conditioned to learning. So sometimes our dogs learn when they paw, so we pet them. So I can condition Ginger this way. Like she would paw at me and I'd pet her, paw, pet, paw, pet, paw. So she learned this means I get reward. So she's not dominating me. This dog doesn't have a dominant bone in her body. Like she wouldn't even, I want her to sleep in bed with me. She won't. Like as soon as I go to get in bed, she's like, not my place. I'm going to go down to the ground. So if you said Mally was like a dominant, I don't think she is, but if you said Mally was like this dominant pushy brat with you, that paw on the arm, I would say is probably Bratty. Knowing her personality, I think she's probably like conditioned paw, touch, paw, touch. So that's up to you. I don't pick the battle with Ginger. I would pick it with Pickles or even Wasabi. Wasabi's bold. She's not dominant, but she's bold and confident. I probably wouldn't allow it from her, but I would Ginger. Personality comes down to play for that. All right. So Allie said, my dog is a puppy, 6, 7 months old. We are almost in your training program on the 21st. I gave him a puppy chew rings, chicken flavor, pumpkin. You have to look at, so she said, is that real animal product? So you'd have to look at if it's like real chicken or just chicken flavor. So we, for example, sell Bene bones at our place that are chicken flavored. That's not real chicken. So no, it's not a silly question at all. The package will tell you whether it's real chicken or just chicken, like chicken flavored. So look at the package. He gets science diet, chicken, dry food, wet food. Isn't that real animal product too? Yeah, that's a good question. Real animal is in food, which is also why I'd recommend, you're going to give food, obviously, but I'd recommend not poking the bear, not doing the whole pull away thing and taking the food all the time and sticking your hand and all that stuff. And he does growl at the window when people go by. Okay, so the food, obviously, but I'll give you a perfect example. So food, almost all food has real chicken or real meat in it, I should say. I will say that for a very short time, I went to raw diet for my dogs, and there was a reason I decided to make this transition. And previously, my dogs, Princess and Ginger, they would eat out of the same bowl. They are like, or two bowls side by side. They were fine their whole lives. Princess died at 14, Ginger's 12, their whole lives. They were always able to eat that way. Pickles, definitely not. She's fed separately. But I told my husband, when we start feeding raw diet, which is real, real, just straight up animal, I told them we can't do that because the chance of them like using aggression to try to control is much higher. I never saw it, but I also didn't put them in that situation. So I wouldn't overthink that too much. Ree said, weird question. Atlas is trained for deep pressure therapy, weighed on me. It took a lot of positive reinforcement to train him to do it. Now he does lay against me on me when we are in bed. I have never corrected it because do I need to allow it only when I give him a command? Well, again, it comes down to personality. If he's pushy, disrespectful, rude to you, then like, no, there's no way I would allow it. Like, especially because he's your service dog. If he's like, he needs to work for you, not opposite. So if he's pushy, bratty, defiant, and just flipping the bird to you every time you tell him to do things, then I would not allow that. Again, personality plays a part on that. Okay, Megan said, any tips for possession with toys around other dogs? Sophie, classic Bratty jerk, does the freeze side eye when she has a toy around. My parents and sister's dogs, they try to show interest in what she has. The other dogs just sniff. This is a great question. The other dogs just sniff and then sit and watch or walk away, but I'd like to manage it before it switches to fight. Okay, real easy solution, toys go away. Like no toys whenever dogs are around. If she's showing that body language, she can't handle it. So I just say anytime that there's other dogs around, all the toys go away. It's something that I had to do in my own house. When we got Wasabi, I just, in the very beginning, all toys were put away. They have gotten to a point now, and I have one more piece of advice for you, Megan, but they've gotten to a point now where we can have toys out and everybody's respectful of each other, meaning Ginger and Wasabi. They're respectful of each other and there's no issues there. But the other thing is your sister and your parents, their dogs, I don't think were trained at Happy Tails. I don't remember, but I don't think they were trained at Happy Tails. So Wasabi wants to steal Ginger's bones, just like your sister's dogs and parents' dogs want to go check out the bone. That's rude. So if anybody has multiple dogs in a house, it is rude if I'm chewing on a bone for the dog to come over into my space and try to take it or even sniff it. They don't need to, just keep them away. So when Ginger's chewing on her bone, if Wasabi goes near her, she will growl. On one of these calls once, I was sitting here, I heard Ginger growling. I knew what she was doing. Wasabi was trying to take her bone. Without even interrupting my call, I grabbed my remote, pushed the button. Wasabi, I know she moved away because the growling stopped. Wasabi came over toward me. I don't allow that. So anytime that a dog is going to steal another dog's bone and that dog growls, you don't correct the dog that growled because they're communicating, hey, back off, that's my bone. You correct the dog stealing it. But if all the dogs in the house aren't respectful of that, all the bones go away, toys go away when dogs are around. And then secondary, she's communicating. She does not like when dogs do that. So either we don't allow the dogs to do that and then she can chew on her bone, or if you're just kind of doing this, I hope she doesn't ever escalate. And she's probably going to escalate. Most dogs do when it comes to other dogs because they try body language, they try communication. And if that doesn't work, this is when they start to climb that ladder and say, well, I need to try a different tactic. And they sometimes go to aggression. Caitlin said, Ghost loves to demand attention, nudging, pawing, including whining. I try to ignore the whining, but it can be incessant. Do I say no, put him in his crate, or the verbal acknowledgement? So great question. Like if we know that it leads to anxiety, we're already starting to see that Ghost is starting to feel anxiety with the touching and the attention. We've got to stop giving into it for that personality. You try to ignore the whining. You can say no. And sometimes I even give like a snap, like even if Ginger comes up and paws me right now, it's not time to play or to love. I just say no. Sometimes I'll snap my fingers and she just walks away. Good girl. So if the no or a snap doesn't just stop it, it, then you may just have to redirect and say, this is what I want you to do now. Go to your crate, go to place, and then give some love. But I would stop for Ghost. I would stop giving into it because it's leading to the anxiety. You're the drug. You're the drug that he needs so bad. And if he doesn't get it, it starts to create the anxiety. If you want to undo that, we've got to take away all that physical praise when they're asking for it. He's closer to anxious than anything. Oh, gotcha for Ree. Okay. So actually, Ree, now you said, going back to Ree, so Atlas was the dog that was trained with pressure for Ree. So she was asking, like, do I take that away? Obviously, he's a service dog and that's part of it. But that stuff, the downside to that is that all of that being on top of you and like being in bed with you and snuggling with you and always being with you, the more that you allow that with your dogs, the more likely we are to have separation anxiety, where you become the drug that they can't live without because we never taught them to live without it. So I'll tell you, and especially for my puppy owners, that the best thing you can do for puppies is create a ton of separation. So every year, so COVID time, everyone spent 24/7 with their dogs, and they created that drug, that need to be around, so that when everybody went back to work, dogs were suffering everywhere. Happens every year in the summer when teachers and kids are home and they get puppies. And then in September, they put them in a crate for 8 hours and the dog can't function. And so they call Happy Tails and they're like, fix it. And I'm like, sorry, you screwed it up already. Now, I don't say it like that, obviously, but the reality is it's very hard to deal with, like telling a dog they don't need you when we just condition them that they do. So that's really hard. So Cheryl said, can you talk quickly with how to address the barking out the window? Is it correct place and for how long? Okay, so this is so hard because the barking out the window is so unpredictable. So in a perfect world, and this is hard, but I'm going to give you a couple examples and then we'll probably end there because I'm 4 minutes over, but a couple examples. So the barking out the window, my first thing that I would say is we've got to stop the barking, or we might have to take away the window, or maybe even both. So it's almost better to take away the window and then just to focus on the barking, because and just for all of you guys that are dealing with barking, so for everyone that has already gone through a program on e-collar and your dog understands correction, I love bark collars. So I like bark collars because you can put it on your dog and it does the work all day long without you having to do anything. So the dog goes woof, 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 woof. The collar goes tap, 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 tap. And most collars, the ones that I recommend, they have two different functions. One is it will increase automatically. So as I go bark, 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 it goes tap, 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 and it goes higher each time. Then the other option is if you know that like level 8 just stops the barking right away, rather than letting them bark up to number 8, you just can set it at level 8. So there's a certain brand I like best. But so bark collars are great because it shuts the dog up and it's consistent and it nails the bark right on the bark, versus here's my collar and now you're trying to stop the chaos with this. So remember, I talked about this last week, I think, but it's hard to stop the chaos after it started. So in a perfect world, you're stopping it before the bark happens. So you would see Henry go, someone's outside. No, don't even think about it. So it's better to shut down the brain before it goes into explosion, because once we're in the bar fight, it's hard to knock it out. So I use the bar fight as an example. I've never been in one, but we've all seen it on TV, right? So someone's talking to someone's girl and some guy starts to like beat the pulp out of somebody. And then your best friend goes in and says, hey, dude, stop. And they pull away. And now you clock your best friend. You didn't mean to clock your best friend, but when you're in the bar fight, you're not thinking about your actions. You're just in fight mode. So when our dogs are just exploding out the window, this doesn't always stop it. So perfect world, you stop it before it happens and then redirect and tell him what to do. So someone's outside, no, high level, don't even think about it. And then Henry, let's go. What you're telling him is, hey, do this instead. You can crate him, you can place him. And when he's somebody's outside, I don't know what to do, just ignore it and keep him in the place or keep him in the crate. Don't give positive reinforcement to it. But the other option is if you just stopped the barking, it doesn't change the mindset. So now our dogs might sit at the window and feel all that tension. They just don't scream about it. So if they're still feeling all the pressure and still feeling all the anxiety, the feeling or the mindset at the window is not changing. We just shut the dog up. And so in my opinion, it's best to just remove them from that window. And that's where, like covering it with, I'm not saying that this is like a perfect option for everybody, but if you've got the dog that's so hard to control, putting that frost on that window is such an awesome option to take it away. It helps to make your dog stay in a better state of mind. I know talking about, and Teresa, I'll come back to your question in a second, but talking about being at the window, if your dog can't handle being at the window, take the window away. How do you take the window away? Well, to decide, depending on your layout of your house, my doctor, for example, I train their dog. And there, I've been in their home before. You walk in the door, and then there's like a room here and a room here, and there's windows all on the front, and then there's a hallway. I said, put your shield right in the hallway. Take those two front rooms and the front door away. Take them away. That they're not even an option. So now the dog has the whole house, other than as soon as they come to that one spot, the dog has a choice: turn around or go upstairs. And there's no barking anywhere else. So that solved the problem. Take that away. One thing I want to be really cautious about. So Teresa said, what bark collar do you recommend? The one I probably recommend the most is called the Sport Dog SBC 10. I just wrote it there. Sport Dog SBC 10, that gives you lots of programmable options. The thing about it is that when a dog is in fight mode and you take away the fight response, you take away that bark, and now they still feel the same way. So let's say Cheryl puts a bark collar on Henry, and Henry's done barking. And so now he's staring out the window, and he's because now he doesn't feel any different about what's going on there. He just can't scream about it. So now Cheryl starts to get this sense of, we're good. He doesn't act like that anymore. So if it was people that he was always barking, FedEx guy, rah, FedEx guy leaves, UPS guy, rah, UPS guy leaves, Amazon, rah, gone, rah, gone, rah, gone. The dog learns that bark has controlled those people its entire time. So now we take the bark away, and now you're like, oh, we're good. If somebody walks in the door and your dog goes bam and nails them. Because we took their power, we took their language, their communication away. We have to be ready that they may say, okay, well, I can't do what I used to do, so I have to try something different. And if they try something different, it can lead to a bite. So we have to be sure, not just for Henry, for any of our dogs, if we do say no to a growl or no to a bark or no to a snap, and then we allow the pressure to come in, the chance of them escalating and trying something different is likely. We put ourselves in a position to get bit. So guys, I'm way over, and I apologize. I usually try to be so respectful with time, so I'm going to let you guys go. If anyone has extra questions, by all means, reach out to your trainer tomorrow, call Happy Tails. If you went through training 18 years ago and your trainer's not there anymore, then there's somebody else that can help you by all means. So if you're still struggling, please keep coming. Please keep coming to these things. Please keep coming to group classes and our online courses, and keep looking at your emails, because I'll keep sending help as much as I possibly can. So guys, you're also welcome. Thanks for being here. Just to really quickly wrap things up, please don't think I'm not saying you can't do any of these things. Make sure you're reading your dog's personality and you're doing this give and take. If they give you a lot, you can give more. If they don't give you a lot, give a little less, and you've got to make some of these adjustments. So go enjoy it. Keep loving your dogs. Thank you so much for how much you guys love your dogs. And thank you so much for being here tonight. And I hope you enjoy your happy Wednesday. Happy St. Patrick's Day tomorrow. And it's going to be 70 and sunny. So enjoy it, guys. All right. See ya. Have a good night. Everybody, you're so welcome. Thank you. Bye-bye.